Hey everyone! Today I'm going to explain to you the basics of the roll mechanic as well as how the extended roll mechanic works in Donkey Kong Country 1. For a bit of background, rolling is pretty much the heart of optimizing DKC speedruns. Rolling is faster than simply running as either Kong, and rolling through an enemy while holding the Y button is even faster than that. For each additional enemy you roll through, you will gain even more speed, although your speed will cap out once you have rolled through 4 enemies or more. To initiate a roll, you must press the Y button. If you initiate a roll while running, your roll will die at the end of Diddy's cartwheel. To move continuously with your rolls, you will either need to jump out of your roll before it ends, or roll through an enemy, which allows you to continue running after your roll instead. If you start a roll from walking rather than running, you will be allowed to continue moving without your roll dying, although this doesn't really have much application in the speedrun itself. If you're landing from mid-air, you can also buffer your rolls by inputting Y a few frames before you land, ensuring that your roll comes out as early as possible upon landing. You can also roll off of ledges and over small gaps to extend the length of your rolls. It is important to note that the trajectory of your roll upon leaving a ledge will vary depending on how far from the ledge you were when you initiated your roll. Typically, the closer you are to the ledge, the higher you will be when you go airborne, but there are some exceptions to this as well. Whether you continue to hold the Y button or not throughout the duration of your roll does not affect your speed if you are not rolling through an enemy. It is also worth noting that you can jump out of your rolls in midair as well. So these are the basics of how the roll mechanic works. So what is extended rolling exactly? Extended rolling is a mechanic exclusive to DKC1 which allows you to, well, extend your rolls by managing when you initiate the speed which you receive from rolling through enemies by releasing and repressing the Y button. In general, to perform an extended roll, you can initiate a roll by pressing the Y button, let go of the Y button before rolling through an enemy, then repress the Y button after rolling through the enemy to choose when to initiate the speed boost you receive. You will need to repress the Y button before your roll ends to receive the speed boost, however. If you are too late, your roll will simply end without receiving any additional speed. Let's take a look at doing a normal roll through this enemy while holding Y, and notice how far we go here. Now let's take a look at doing an extended roll through that same enemy. Notice that by the time my roll ends, Diddy Kong is a bit farther to the right despite only having done a single roll either time because of the extended roll mechanic. Now, being able to extend your rolls like this is definitely useful for optimizing movement in certain places, but where extended rolling becomes particularly useful is when it allows you to maneuver through certain sections that you otherwise would not be able to do with normal rolls. Now, to go into a few examples of this, let's take a look at Ropey Rampage. Now, if you simply try to roll off the tree through the Kremling and jump towards the rope while holding Y through this enemy, you're more often than not going to end up too low on the rope and have to climb up a little bit to reach the next tree. With an extended roll, you can initiate speed you receive from the Krem a bit later, giving your roll a better trajectory and allowing you to grab the rope from high enough to simply jump to the next tree immediately. Now, let's take a look at another example of an extended roll, this time in Reptile Rumble. If we attempt to roll through these two snakes using the standard method of holding Y, we're going to end up getting stung by this bee. Now, watch how the extended roll allows us to clear over that bee. By first rolling through the snake while holding Y to gain speed, releasing Y before rolling through the second snake, then immediately repressing Y after rolling through the second snake. We extend our roll just enough to make it over that bee, allowing us to keep the rolled speed throughout this entire section, rather than being forced to jump over that bee and go a little bit slower there. Another good example of the application of extended rolls is in Winky's Walkway. Now, if you simply try to roll through these 3 enemies at the start, you won't be able to make it over the gap to that next section. If we apply the same technique that we did in Reptile Rumble, however, where we roll through the first enemy while we're holding Y to gain speed, then release Y to roll through the second enemy, we can repress Y shortly afterwards to initiate that additional speed boost a bit later than normal, giving us a more favorable roll trajectory and allowing us to clear this gap here. Something else worth noting is that for extended rolls such as the one here in Winky's Walkway, it's important to set up visual cues for when to begin your initial roll and when to initiate the repress for the extended roll, because these two factors will ultimately depend on one another. Something important to note about extended rolls is that while you're rolling through an enemy after a tap of the Y button, meaning you have not initiated your speed boost yet, is that your roll speed will remain the same as a normal roll that didn't go through an enemy. An example that shows this quite well is the final extendo in Oil Drum Alley, where we initiate our extended roll quite late to clear this gap after the arrow sign. For this reason, extended rolls are only faster when they allow you to either extend your roll in a place where it otherwise would have been cut short, or when they allow you to maneuver through certain sections more quickly, like we've seen in the previous examples. You want to avoid doing extended rolls in situations where it's not really necessary, otherwise you'll end up losing frames due to waiting unnecessarily to initiate your speed boost. Some common places I've seen this are the roll through the first Naughty in Oil Drum Alley, and through the final Manky Kong in Orangutan Gang. Doing a quick release and repress of the Y button in these cases does not do anything but lose you a few frames, since your roll would have made it to its target without an extended roll in the first place. One more thing I'd like to talk about is Omega extended rolls. Now this term is thrown around quite loosely, but it typically refers to extended rolls that involve a series of holding Y through enemies, tapping Y after enemies, and repressing Y after the final enemy. To make more sense of that, let's go ahead and take a look at an example, the Omega Extendo in Temple Tempest. Now this is a pretty notorious extended roll because if not done properly, you will find yourself taking a dive into the pit at the end. To perform this extended roll, it is important to initiate your roll as far right as possible. Roll through this first Kremling while holding Y to gain some initial speed, then release Y before rolling into the second Krem. After you've rolled through the second Krem, tap the Y button before rolling through the third Krem, making sure to let go before rolling through him. Continue to roll through the third Krem without holding Y, then right as your roll is about to end, based on looking at Diddy's roll animation here, repress the Y button again to initiate the speed boost from that third Krem. Once again, release the Y button to prepare to extended roll through the final Krem in the sequence. Similarly to before, wait until your roll is about to end to repress the Y button to initiate your speed boost. The longer you can drag out your Y tap and Y represses here, the longer your roll will extend. A good indication of really getting the distance that you need out of your extended roll here is that Diddy will go flying over the tire at the end rather than just rolling over it. Thankfully, there are only a few other places where you need to apply the Omega Extendo technique to perform the section optimally in the speedrun. Hopefully this video helped you better understand how extended rolls work and how they can be applied to save time in the speedrun in DKC1. Thanks for watching.